From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Keith Allen and Mr. and Mrs. America. You're tuned to Tuesday, September the 12th edition of For the People. What a whirlwind. I got to tell you, for the hurricane that could have done a lot more damage here to Tampa Bay, but or even Marco Island or Naples, Florida, or Miami, Florida. It seems like the brunt of the hurricane, the islands, really took a lashing. Bermuda, how about that? And so many of the other islands just took a beating. Literally, it looks like an explosion, a war zone. More close to us, Key West, looks like literally an explosion happened over there. Really bad. Here in Tampa Bay, we got electric out. A lot of Floridians have electric out. As a matter of fact, 1 in 5, to put it in perspective, households in Florida have no electricity. You might be listening on your cell phone or generator. Appreciate you tuning in today. We prepared for the worst. A lot of Floridians did. It looked like it was going to hit us dead on, and that's the way it looked. And up until really literally a day before, we thought that this thing was going to go up the mouth, as they put it. Hillsborough Bay, there on Bayshore, you may have seen Bayshore Boulevard make national news. It's really a beautiful piece of real estate, that's for sure. 8 miles of continuous sidewalk, actually the Guinness Book of World Records. I actually exercise on that, do my 16.5 miles every other day there to Davis Island, to that airport, and then back to my home on Euclid. Beautiful area, but it just did not have the punch, and thankfully it did not. Lots of prayers going up, that's for sure. But, trees were down. Power lines, a lot of roughage there, a lot of chainsaws going, and a lot of people just trying to put their lives back together. But I will tell you, I lost power where I was staying at my brother-in-law, and it's just one of those things we take for granted. We flip the switch, we expect it to work, and when it doesn't, it's not fun if you don't have air conditioning. And for a few hours, it's okay, but it kind of gets old when it's days and days. And it could be that way for many Floridians. It could be weeks until they actually get power. Some places could be up to a month. And if you're lucky enough to have a generator or have a friend that you could stay with, that's the ticket. But I'll tell you, there's no place like home. Got the studio back in working condition here, and it's dry. We had no water in the building whatsoever. Just, again, we prepared for it because it's going to be one of these years, and we've been warned that one year we're not going to be so lucky. So I don't feel bad about preparing, and I just don't feel bad about it at all. It's just a lesson learned, and it's, to me, putting things into perspective. I did a Facebook Live video yesterday, just kind of doing a little self-inventory on what we're doing and what's most important. And what I saw with so many people banding together, helping each other after the storm was beautiful. But everybody kind of hunkering down and really in a survival mode, kind of praying, saying our prayers and hoping for the best, trying to get through this storm that we really had ultimately no control over. The weathermen tried to predict it as best they could, but they weren't 100% accurate. What was accurate is that it affected the entire state of Florida. There's no doubt about that, and kept on going up to the Carolinas, to Georgia, to Tennessee, and lots of flooding in Jacksonville. We saw that going on. Lots of pictures coming in from overnight and this morning. trying to assess a lot of the damage and devastation going on in our state right now. And as we're seeing these devastating photos, really, Rick Scott said after emerging from a Monday flyover of the Keys, a Navy aircraft carrier was due to anchor off Key West to help search and rescue efforts. Drinking water supplies in the Keys were cut off, fuel was running low, and all 3 hospitals in the island chain were shuttered. The governor described overturned mobile homes, washed ashore boats, and rampant flood damage. And it's horrendous to see the pictures there in Key West. This was one of the things that indeed was expected. They believed that Key West was going to take a pounding. They thought that's where the eye was going to go down, and sure enough, what damage. Key resident Laura Keeney was waiting in a Miami hotel until it was safe to return to the island chain and anxious to hear more about her apartment complex. Her building manager told her there was flooding at her unit, but further updates were hard to come by because power and cell phone service had been down on the island. They told me there is definitely water in the downstairs apartment, which she says that was kind of expected. Stunning 13 million people, 2/3 of the largest state's residents, plotted on the in tropical heat without electricity. Nearly every corner of Florida felt Irma's power. And this is Newsmax writing this headline here. 6 deaths in Florida blamed on Irma, along with 3 in Georgia, 1 in South Carolina, and at least 35 people killed in the Caribbean. More than 180,000 people huddled in shelters in the Sunshine State, and officials warned it could take weeks for electricity once again to be restored for everyone. The governor said it was way too early to put a dollar estimate on the damage. People are already asking how much. They're believing it could be in the billions. Lots of money, that's for sure. And for those that have come home and find their house really unscathed, nothing happened, roof there, no flood damage, you're lucky if you're one of the few that, because there's many in Florida that weren't so lucky. Whole trees uprooted, apartment complexes, destroyed because of the wind. But again, it could have been a whole lot worse. Key West, again, the worst. We were looking at Naples. There's flood damage there. Miami, you guys are so lucky there. That could have been terrible. A lot of wind. A crane did come down. Did you hear about that? Crane snapped, fell down, but nobody got hurt, which was a blessing. There's so many cranes over there. They were thinking that was going to be more of a problem, but not at all. So we were praying. I know you were praying. It's good to have some kind of normacy, whatever that is. But I'm reminded when I say that, there's not a lot of normacy for a lot of folks in Texas still this morning, as well as a lot of Florida. A lot of folks are sitting in the dark, literally, not knowing what's going on. They don't have any television, and some just have no batteries for radio, so they're kind of on a blackout, but in survival mode. But there are plenty of people trying to reach out to them, and there is certainly help locally to get some food to them with FEMA doing what they can, and the National Guard has been deployed for people that need help. But it's tough, I'll tell you, in Florida especially, to be without power. Key West, I mean, you get digits 105, 110, then on top of that humidity, man, you're taking a beating. Chick-Fil-A doing what they can to help out things. You know that Chick-Fil-A doesn't open on Sunday, but the Virginia Chick-Fil-A opened its doors on Sunday. But this wasn't just to open it up for food. This was for something of a spiritual nature, in order to allow a church group to hold worship services. On its website, the company says that they close their stores on Sundays so employees can set aside one day to rest and worship if they choose. But they decided to open up its doors on Sunday, well, sort of. Popular food chain known for remaining closed for business on Sunday. National Headline says on its website that the company says that they closed the restaurants on Sunday to do it, but there's a church that wasn't able to actually have church. So WTVR reported that White Oak Community Church typically holds a service in the ballroom at a Eco Lodge hotel in Sandstone, but on September 3rd, they realized they couldn't use the space. Upon arriving to our current worship location, we found that the building has condemned signs on the door. The church posted on its Facebook page, the only legal use of any of the space are for the Eco Lounge to conduct business. So we obviously do not have a church this morning. So the Post called the ordeal only a minor setback. Often God sandblasted us out of places in order for us to see the next great thing that he has for his church. They said, a little frustrated this morning, but excited for what God has for our future. Church leaders began to search for a new worship space. One of its board members who works at the Chick-Fil-A contacted her boss and asked the church could they use the store for their Sunday service. He agreed. So there's a video, folks, posted on Facebook of the pastor, Dave Wild, thanking Chick-fil-A for graciously agreeing to host them on Sunday. No, they're not serving food. Cannot order chicken biscuits at Chick-fil-A next Sunday, he joked. So if you're a current or future attendee and you always wanted to worship in a restaurant setting, this is your lucky day. Meanwhile, the church is still searching for a regular Sunday venue. Pastor, again, we're excited to see what God is going to do next. Isn't that good news? You know, I'm a believer, and I do believe, seriously, that God does close doors. God opens doors, God closes doors. And even in times of tragedy, trying to make sense of some of it, why some houses were spared, why some people have electricity, it's interesting how people think. But people sound off on Facebook and Twitter and thinking, why do they have electricity and why don't I have electricity and why is that house spared and why that tree fell and why? There's a lot of whys. There's a lot of whys in life, that's for sure. But Jesus said when he was here that he said that there would be a lot of things and trials and tribulations, but he promised us one thing. He said, I would always be with you. And see, that's my hope, that no matter what we have each other, and we have the good Lord walking through with us instead of being alone, and I couldn't imagine doing it alone. We're never alone. And to me, that comforts me through this time that we can have faith in him and then also seeing God's handiwork through each other. Perfect strangers helping each other out that don't have chainsaws. Perfect strangers coming to the aid of a stranger and feeding them, clothing them. I mean, that's the gospel, folks, in action. And if anything, that gives me great appreciation for those that lean on their faith more, because it can be hard without it. Could you imagine going through it and not having it? It would be a really lonely existence to me. It would be really tough because there's people trying to, contemplate these deep thoughts, philosophical thoughts, and it's, for a person of belief, it's not a big deal. We got work to do. Let's do what we can. Let's jump in. Let's love on people. Love on Franklin Graham's Samaritan Purse plane. He's got this. It says serving in the name of Jesus. He just makes it known, who he stands for, who he's with. I like that. I mean, there's just making no doubt about who he serves. And I kind of like that. Serving in the name of Jesus. I think that's powerful. Rather than making this a guess. Franklin Graham this morning with the relief efforts that they're underway doing, and really what a great job. If you're looking for an organization, you're looking for a group to donate, by the way, Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse, what they're doing, what they're giving for the islands right now, trying to get out there with the relief. They're doing a phenomenal job. SamaritansPurse.org is where you can find them. Franklin Graham right now.
Thank you. We've got 5 locations in Texas, South Texas right now. We're opening up 2 yesterday in Florida. That would be in Fort Myers and Naples. And then we've been using, we have cargo planes, and we're using those down in the Caribbean. We've been going back and forth to St. Martin.